So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we are talking about the visibility and control of your network with Cisco and Auvik. And just a little bit of housekeeping rules for today. We are going to have a slider that's popping up on, going to pop up on your right-hand side. We are going to have a few questions for you to answer along the presentation, if you're happy to share them with us. Also on the right-hand side on the bottom, you have a chat window. Feel free to drop all your questions there, whether it's related to Cisco or to Auvik. We will be happy to answer them at the end of the presentation. Today's session is also recorded, so we will send you all the information after the webinar, and we will be happy to follow up one-on-one for any of the individual questions that you might have. And now we can move forward. So we will have two presenters with us today. We will have Christian, who is a solution engineer at Cisco and has been with Cisco for 20 years. So he has a lot of experience, and he'll be happy to share Cisco perspective on the network with you. And we also have Rebecca from Auvik side, and which I'm going to pass the word to now.
Hello, everyone. I'm a product marketing manager for Auvik. I've been here about 5 years. And I'm one of the authors of our network assessment kit and template, and that's one of the topics we'll be sharing today. Christian from Cisco is going to walk us through the importance of hardware and software refreshes, and we'll talk about how we can do network assessments and how that will help you understand what you need to refresh and when. So we have a question for the audience first, and that's, what's your biggest challenge related to hardware and software refreshes? If you could put your answers in the slide, that'd be great. We'd love to see them. Give you a second to do so. And so I also wanted just to briefly go over the agenda for today's presentation. We're going to talk about why it's important to maintain up-to-date device firmware and software for security and compliance, among other reasons. How Auvik can help by making network assessments easier for yourself, your organization, or your clients. And then best practices for network assessments and device end of life. So let's talk a little bit about the initial challenge. I'm going to ask Christian some questions related to how we hardware and software refresh. So Christian, I understand that it's critical to operations when a device is at end of life to think about refreshing the hardware, but also to keep the software up to date. What are some of the reasons for doing that?
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Anya, for the introduction. You use a photo that remembered how I was 20 years ago. Okay, so hardware refresh for network devices, I would say, is due to many reasons. First, networking is in continuous evolution. Okay, bandwidth is continually increasing. New protocol and technologies are continuously added, and also the way in which the network are built is different year after year. Okay, so things continuous changes in the, I would say, in the network. So this means that we need additional capabilities, and in order to implement these additional capabilities, very often is necessary to change periodically. I mean, the hardware, the ASICs, etc., etc. So this is one of the reasons why I would say refresh is needed. Okay. Then there is another reason that I'm seeing. Before joining Cisco, I have been a customer of Cisco. I work in the engineering department, in the network engineering department, in the network operation department. So when you are a customer, you don't see all the details that is behind the activity that a vendor of devices, that they are behind the activity of the vendor devices. So in some cases, in our devices, there are many components, and some of these components can go, let's say, end of life. Obviously, we try to replace these pieces with other, I would say, chips, ASICs with equivalent functionality, but sometimes this is not possible. So another reason that trigger, I would say, the end of sale of the a networking device is also I would say, is not under our control, but is due to external factors like the end of life for some components. Okay. In general, however, the lifetime of our devices is quite long. Let's consider, for example, the Catalyst 6500. It's one of the most successful products that we ever introduced. I remember the first time that I configured one of these boxes was 2001. Okay, so there have been many refreshes, hardware refreshes, new generation line cards, but it was 25 years ago. Okay, and now this product line is going end of sale by the end of this month. So we have a very, I would say, clear end of sale process. 6 months before the end of sale, we declare that there will be in a 6-month time frame the actual end of sale. Then after the end of sale, we have 5 years of additional support, hardware support. So hardware refresh, we try to preserve as much as possible the investment that our customer do in our devices. Yeah. But sure, it's important on I would say, the device reaches the end of sale milestone. It's the right moment to start thinking how to replace it. Okay, in order to guarantee that the network is always in a fully supported status.
Yeah. We don't want anyone to miss out on the new feature delivery, but also their technical support, of course.
Yeah, sure.
And then the very important question that comes after this is, how do you keep up with end of life and end of support for all of your devices?
This is a good question, okay, because usually the networks are built with a layered approach, one project over the other one, okay? So in many cases, there is the risk to lose the control of what we have in the network. Okay, a common request that I'm getting from, I would say, network manager in the manufacturing vertical market is, hey, I don't know what I have in my plants. Okay, imagine that these are plants in which the devices stay there for 20, 25 years. Okay, and it's quite common to lose the visibility on the status of the devices. So maybe there is something that plays a very critical role, and then it's completely out of support since years. If this component breaks, then you're in trouble. Okay, so it's very important to have the possibility to have an up-to-date inventory of what is present in the network, with also obviously the picture of the end of support status.
That's right. And then there's a good reason for that, but there's also a good reason to keep your software up to date. As I understand, the software versioning is also incredibly important to the stability and security of the device.
Absolutely, this is another critical point. You know, in networking there is the golden rule. If something works, please do not touch it. Okay, and this is a quite common approach. I had this approach when I was operating the network. Okay, so sometimes, let's say, very often, the software upgrade is not, I would say, the preferred activity for our customers. Okay, there are risks. We have to check in advance that everything work fine, etc. So it's a very, I would say, time-consuming activity. However, keeping the software up to date is absolutely mandatory. Okay, because having an up-to-date software guarantees you from, I would say, bugs, from, I would say, vulnerabilities that can be exploited, okay, by some attackers. So, not to mention the introduction of new features. Okay, so this is a very, very important activity that is, I would say, a difficult activity because it's very difficult to keep tracks of all the software builds that are produced. It's difficult to keep tracks of the vulnerability or the bug fixes that are I would say, fixed or introduced. So, but it's absolutely critical for the network operation. Okay, not to mention that also the software has a predefined, I would say, lifetime. So every release has a period of full support, and then it will start the end of life process. So keeping track of the milestone of the software, of the bug fixes, of the, I would say, new functionalities and vulnerabilities that are solved is absolutely essential.
And so when we think about how we're going to manage doing that, when the plethora of devices out there that exist on the network that you may have documented a year ago, so really network blind spots is what I'm talking about here, where you don't know exactly what were covered in your network inventory. And that could include these.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's very important to have the possibility to have help, to have a tool supporting all these activities. As I told before, these are these are complex activities, okay? Time consuming, they require a lot of, I would say, knowledge preparation. So it's absolutely some activities in which having a tool able to, let's say, make the life easier for the people managing the network is, let's say, it's a paramount. Okay, so we have these tools. I think that you will tell us something about the tool in the next slide. So
Yeah.
I leave the stage to Anya, and thanks a lot for the invitation to the webinar.
Excellent. Thank you, Christian.
Yeah, so on that point, I wanted to reintroduce the power of the platform that we have here in Cisco and in Cisco networking. So we have here on the left-hand side all our devices or our products such as Meraki, Thousand Eyes, Spaces, Catalyst Center, SD-WAN, ICE, and etc. And then we, on the other hand side, we have all range of the ecosystem partners that connect to these devices through the platform and using our APIs and produce certain outcomes, including the one we are talking about today. But all the outcomes can be around management, automation, assurance, security, and many more. If you want to explore some of those, I invite you to go to marketplace.cisco.com. But today we are here, obviously, with one of our partners for Refresh, which is Auvik. And I'll pass the word to Rebecca.
Thank you. And so when we talk about the ways in which you can document your hardware and software that may be in need of refresh, a lot of people talk to me about their special spreadsheet that they have somewhere that inventories all of their devices and keeps track of these end of support and end of life dates. But the issue with having a spreadsheet or even storing all of your documentation in an internal wiki or internal database, it can sometimes become outdated. Also, there's no real-time or config visibility without logging into the device this way. And it can be quite error-prone because of the human intervention. If you have multiple owners, multiple team members working on the same devices, you're going to have conflicting sources of information as well, and you won't get any alerting when changes occur, right? The only people who know what has changed on the network are the people who work on it day in and day out. So this brings me to the importance of network assessments. If you are working as an MSP and you regularly do these for clients, that's amazing. If you're an internal IT organization and you want to gain insight on your own organization, you can do this internally. And it helps you gain insight on the specific risks that your network infrastructure might be exposed to, It helps you identify these things like the vulnerabilities Christian talked about or the end of support dates. It helps tailor your solutions, your IT problem solving, to address the specific needs that exist on your network today. And that ensures a more secure network environment. And most of all, it keeps you compliant. So, Auvik, that's the solution we're talking about today. Auvik helps IT teams and MSPs visualize and manage their assets across their network infrastructure and some additional devices such as servers, workstations, SaaS inventory, and so on. But we'll talk about the network management product specifically because it can help you do these network assessments, and it connects great with Cisco devices to provide you that end of life, end of support date, and end of contract information as well. So we talked a little bit about how manual spreadsheets and wire tracing can create headaches for IT professionals. When you see a tangle of wires, you don't really want to trace them to all their endpoints and then data map that to your Excel spreadsheet. But Auvik can show you the connections on your network in all of its layers in an easy to navigate map that populates in about an hour, making it ideal for the situations where you need to do a network assessment and understand what is on your network at a given time. These are some of the supported protocols. We utilize all of the standardized protocols for networking, as well as some additional encryption and coding mechanisms. For discovery and inventory, you would deploy Auvik. Just as I said, it takes about an hour to populate. We send out a collector, and it pings all of the devices on your network and receives information back about how those devices are connected. And if they're Cisco devices, it will also show you some hardware lifecycle data, which we'll get more into as I go along in my slides. If you're running Auvik during compliance audits, it's a great time to make sure that you're running the most current software or firmware. And we'll talk about just how to do that. One way is by filtering and exporting your network map. When you do a network assessment, if you want to walk around and preview all of the devices that are connected manually, that's a very time-consuming exercise. But you can get a map of your network and check in on the devices that you're uncertain about. With Auvik's exportable map, you can just get a PDF and you can go check out the locations of all of those connected devices. And we have a lot of options in our software as well for filtering. So you can filter by only access points or only switches, so on and so forth. So, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about software tracking. We track software and firmware versions from the collector. We compare it with the end of X data from Cisco. This gives us sales availability, software version, end of maintenance date, like Christian talked about, where you may not be able to get the parts that are necessary to perform an upgrade or a repair, and end of support. And this is what it looks like in the product. You'll see the red ones are all out of date and the green ones are pending coming up. Contract renewal coverage is also available. It's under the hardware lifecycle tab in the product. And this lets you see exactly when your contract is due for renewal on the devices, which is an incredibly useful feature that we've been able to work with Cisco to provide. So once you've discovered all the devices on your network, though, how do you extend the assessment to other critical items? You want to look for potential security hazards, which are devices using standard or default credentials, or devices that use the same credentials repeatedly. As we mentioned, security risks, this is just one of those hidden things that people don't often think about when the network is running as usual, business as usual. You can also diagnose issues degrading network performance. I love this little bomb emoji that my Brandon comms manager put in. But they really are, they can be a, a ticking time bomb, because if you don't diagnose issues degrading network performance when they are happening, it can be too late. You can interfere with productivity at your workplace, and you might not even know the source. And so how we do that is by analyzing alerts. Auvik is also an alerting engine, so it can let you know when things have changed on your network, as long as you have the collector out pinging those devices. It's vital to understand end user needs, and so this is a good step to take when you're assessing your network as well. And then we have one more question, which is, what is your next step towards a hardware refresh now that you know about the risks and the process? And we'll give you a moment to pop that into the slide. Excellent. So we also created a link to our 14-day free trial, which you can try at auvik.com/Cisco, or you can find us in the Cisco Marketplace. As Anya mentioned, we are a marketplace partner, and that's a convenient way to check out our product as well. It's time for a Q&A and another silly little picture.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rebecca. Feel free to ask questions in the chat on the bottom of the right-hand side if you have any. We actually got quite a bit of answers to what's your biggest challenge related to hardware refresh. So some of it was cost, some of it was maintaining hardware, pricing, upgrading, compatibility, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, with a network assessment, like I said, you can almost get a network assessment done in the 14-day trial period for which we're offering at Auvik. It's a really convenient way to give this process a try and see all the features that you can get with a network management tool. And like I said, that data will populate about your Cisco devices. So if your gut check says, oh, we're behind on our hardware refreshes, it might be time to take an hour out of your day and perform a quick network assessment.
Yeah, someone is actually asking, what is the cost after the trial?
It varies per network device. There are a lot of devices that can potentially be seen on the network. Auvik only bills for 4 core devices, which are switches, firewalls, physical routers, cloud controllers. And so it'll be, there are varying rates based on volume and then based again on how many of those core network devices you have in the platform.
Okay, so I think the next step from here for those who are interested about the trial and about the potentially working with Auvik, I will share the follow-up with everyone, so feel free to respond. I'll share all the contacts, including Rebecca's contact, and you will be able to schedule one-on-one to go over your specific requirements and over your specific challenges and see how Auvik can help you. Someone has a question in the chat. What about virtual appliances in the cloud and other virtual machines that have a function in the network? How will this be seen or scanned?
Yes, so if we go back to protocols, Auvik typically uses SNMP along with a combination of credentials and identifiers to map what is on the network. And it can do layer 2, layer 3. So if you have virtual switches or virtual routers, for example, or a VPN connection, we can find that as well. It will just look different on the map to indicate a different type of connection or a virtual appliance.
All right. We are having some responses coming in for the second question. So what's the next step? People are saying analyzing the costs and analyzing the cost of maintenance, searching for vulnerabilities, and I think partner is saying informing the customers about the risk of not refreshing. So that sounds like good outcomes.
Yeah, that's a great point. We definitely want to make sure we're communicating clearly the security risks and the maintenance risks involved. Your customers definitely want to know if there's the risk that their switch will run out of parts next year and not be replaceable. It's almost scarier than the impact of a bill for a new switch. So.
All right. Well, that sounds like we don't have any more questions as of now. Actually, there is one just pop up. What are the hardware and software requirements for Auvik software?
Yes, it's Windows 64. Oh my gosh, I don't have offhand all of the requirements, but I can email you. It's in our knowledge base, which is searchable on auvik.com as well. There's a full list of software and hardware requirements for running the product, or give me a little while and I'll email them to you.
Okay, we will share that in the follow-up for, I will share the link for that in the follow-up email for everyone. I think on that note, okay, someone is asking integration with Cisco estate. I feel like this is not a full question. If you want to retype, Eric, the full question, we can wait a few more moments for that. If the question is about integration with, maybe it's the question about how Auvik is integrating with Cisco.
Yeah. We have API integrations with the EOX and also with Meraki and some other key platforms for your data and your network. So that's also available in a link. I can provide a link to Auvik's integrations.
Yeah, so the full question was the integration between Auvik and the full Cisco tools like vManage, ICE, DNA Center.
Okay, that's a bit of a different question. I understand. Yes. So the full Cisco tools are not embedded in Auvik natively. You're going to want to use them alongside each other anyway, particularly if you have a site or your org in particular where you have a lot of non-homogeneous devices, you know, different types of different vendors along with your key Cisco and Meraki devices.
Okay. We actually have another question. Does it just monitor or does it allow some kind of control?
Yes, you can do things like run commands and back up your configs and compare configs in Auvik. It has troubleshooting features and it's not just an alerting engine. Definitely there's some functionality in terms of things you can update on the device itself with Auvik. But it is corely network monitoring and management.
Okay, sounds great. So I guess we could end on this note. It was a really useful presentation. I hope it was very useful for you as well. After this this call, if you have any questions, feel free to schedule one-on-ones with Auvik or with us, and Auvik will be able to guide you through the demos and all the tool and explain how they can help specifically for your organization. We are going to be in touch via email, and yeah, shoot us any questions that you have.